Hi, welcome to the Bill and Frantz Show. My name is Larry Lazar. I'll be your guest today talking to you about climate change. We'll see you soon.
Hey, welcome back to the Bill and Frantz Show. This is the first episode of season 4. We are in January of 2014. Welcome, everybody. Our guest today is Larry Lazar.
Hello, glad to be here.
Okay, well, see, Larry's a climate specialist, so we're going to go straight into the conversation. Larry, how did you get into this, man?
Well, I got involved several years ago just by understanding what the problem is, and understanding that problem kind of made me get involved. And I'm involved in a number of different ways. First and foremost, I started a climate change meetup group here in St. Louis. It's called Climate Reality St. Louis. So if you go to Meetup, type in climate, you'll find us there. I encourage you to join our group. I'm also involved in a number of other things. The Citizens Climate Lobby, which is a group I just came from. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting this morning. And I'm a climate reality presenter, which means I present climate change issue around the community.
Okay, cool. Well, we definitely need that because a lot of people are confused.
They are, yeah, exactly.
And speaking of confused, did you not start out as a climate change skeptic yourself?
I absolutely did, and I think most of us did start out as a climate change skeptic because we all think, yeah, the weather always changes, right? It's cold today, it's hot tomorrow. We've always had changes in the weather. It's hot in the summer, it's cold in the winter, right? What climate change is, and what I found out after digging into it, and I was a skeptic. I listened to Fox News and Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck, and I was convinced that everything they said was true. It's the sun, it's natural variability, carbon is a plant food, all this stuff. I listened to it and I accepted it and I believed it until just kind of the reality of continual weird weather just hits you over the head time and time again. And I decided to look into it, and it helped to have a brother that's a scientist, and that helped me a lot because he lives in Alaska, and in Alaska it's obvious because the glaciers are disappearing right in front of you. And these kind of things are supposed to happen over like thousands of years, are happening in human lifespans, and that's crazy. So I dug into it, and I checked some of my trusted sources, like my National Geographics. I turned off Fox News, I turned off conservative radio, and I looked at good, credible sources like Nat Geo, like NASA, and I found out that I was surprised as heck to find out that it was an overwhelming consensus by virtually every scientific organization in the world that has anything to do with atmospheric climate accepts the climate change is climate changing and that humans are causing it. Mm-hmm. And also found out that 97% of climate scientists, those that practice climate science, accept climate change, and the few that don't are generally funded by fossil fuel companies or Exxon or somebody like that. So it's real, man. It's real.
Wow. I guess the question is, how are so many people being deceived? The scientists are coming out saying this. Is it just a propaganda? Is it media? I mean, what's going on?
Well, there's a lot going on. Yes, there's been a misinformation campaign funded primarily by fossil fuel interests, Exxon. There's also conservative organizations, free market organizations that have been funding a campaign of information. So those scientists you see on Fox News or you hear on the radio, I don't say they're all funded, but many of them are. But they they manufacture this illusion of doubt, create a controversy where there really doesn't exist. And they did the same thing years ago with tobacco. Back when there was a dispute about whether tobacco smoking causes cancer, they did the same thing. They find scientists, pay them to conduct studies to support the opposition. And the same thing happened with the climate change. And those guys, the small, loud voices get on media. So you find the contrarians, because they're the interesting story, right? You find the people that deny the consensus, and you put them on the news, and they create they're the interesting story, not everyone that accepts.
It
Right?
gives the illusion of a 50-50 balance.
It does.
Yeah.
It's a false balance, right? Absolutely.
So some of their specific claims are things such as, well, science, you can never be sure, therefore we shouldn't be doing anything. And there's also the claim that, the Earth naturally has changes over time, but isn't there a certain graph that actually moves and totally is in a new direction that's never been seen before?
Oh, there is. There's a number of those, a whole bunch of
beyond ice age
graphs.
kind of changes.
Oh yeah. Obviously the big one is the CO2 graph. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide comes from burning fossil fuels. So, and something I learned in this process that really amazed me is that carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere almost forever, over thousands of years. Not forever, but thousands of years. On a human lifespan, it's forever. But like every car that's ever been driven, every factory that's ever operated since the industrial age, that CO2 is still in the atmosphere. Right?
Wow.
So you think about how many cars we've all had, you think about all those cars around the world, now China, all the people in China are getting cars. All that CO2 is going in the atmosphere and staying there. And every car that's ever existed is still there.
What about all the plants and stuff? They're supposed to
Well,
convert it back through photosynthesis.
They do, but we're losing plant life, right? You're losing plant life in a big way. The deforestation around the world is a negative offset. So we're losing the ability to suck up all the additional CO2 that's going into the atmosphere. It's a slow build, right? When you jump in bed at night, it takes a while, right? You jump in bed, it's cold. Right. It takes like 5 or 10 minutes to get your heat from your body, because your body is a heat source when it comes to jumping in your bed. That delay is called thermal inertia, right? It takes a while. And you put a pot of water on a stove, it takes a while for the heat from the flame to warm up that water. And that lag is called a climate lag, is about 40 years. So that means the weather we're experiencing today, the temperatures we're experiencing today, are from energy levels 40 years ago. Back when, before you were born probably, back when I was getting my first car, not even my first car yet. But, so if we stop CO2 emissions today, we have another 30 to 40 years of increasing temperature. Right? So that's makes the urgency of solving this problem now that important. If we wait until if we wait until it's so hot that no one can deny it, it's probably too late. That's why we have to solve it now.
So, for example, our children and grandchildren, what we're doing now will affect them in 40 years, or is there more to it than that?
Well, it's affecting us now. It's climate disruption now, and the things you see happening now will continue to get worse. We have a choice. It's our choice. The choices that we make today will dictate what happens to our kids and to our kids' climate. And if we continue on the path we are now, the things you see today will just get worse. And it's going to probably, there'll be ups and downs, but the lines will get increasingly bigger, right? It's going to be, the multiplier will be bigger and bigger every year, or every decade or so. And but if we take action now, if we take action to limit carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and we can do it, we can prevent the worst of things for our kids and grandkids.
Is carbon dioxide the primary thing that we have to do to global warming, to prevent global warming, or are there other things?
Carbon dioxide is the mothership.
Okay.
Yeah, there are other things. Methane is a problem. Methane from cattle and from our garbage dumps and all that. But the much bigger issue is carbon dioxide. You think about all the cars in the world, you think about factories, you think about the growth of China, you think about tar sands in Canada that double, triple, quadruple the amount of CO2, normal CO2. And the underlying problem is carbon, and don't let me tell you otherwise. And there's other things. Everything helps with other things, but carbon is the big one. We can't solve this without solving carbon.
Look, we have to go to break, but we'll be back with Larry breaking it down for us on the Bill and Frantz show. We'll be back. Ooh, it's cold out here. It's not as cold as it was, but if it's just cold in your love life, ooh, I feel bad for you.
Oh, you're gonna need more than being cool to keep you warm on a cold winter's night.
do something different for your woman. You know, if you don't give massages, give her a massage. And don't just give her any type of massage. Go get you some oil. Get you some vanilla oil, some raspberry oil, some cherry oil. Something that smells good to you and smells good to her. And rub her down. Rub her down like you never rubbed her down before. And rub her down real good. And if hopefully that'll unthaw that type of cold relationship you in, man. But that's all I have today. Rub her down with some oil.
Welcome back to the Bill and Frantz Show. Our guest is still Larry Lazar. He's been telling us about global warming, aka climate change, and he's been telling us some problems. How can we work to improve the situation?
Well, this is the good news. We can take action to solve the climate crisis, and that's really good news. And my boss always told me, three things, because anything more than that gets too complicated. And you can remember it. So I have three things for everyone to remember and to take action on. Number one is just to get involved. Join an organization. You can't solve this problem by changing your light bulbs and buying a Prius. It won't do it. We need systemic problems require systemic solutions, and this is a global warming, so it requires some pretty significant changes. So to do that, you need to join an organization. A couple that I recommend are Citizens Climate Lobby, which is they have a local chapter, which I came from here in St. Louis. Carol Brayford is the owner, operator of that. So ccl.org is where you find it. Another one is the Climate Reality Project, which I'm a member of, and we go out and talk about the reality of the climate crisis. 350.org, which is Bill McKibben's group. This is a global group, and it's the largest single group that is working against the climate crisis. My friends Brian Etling are involved with that. Julie Veal from St. Charles is involved with that. The Sierra Club is particularly the Beyond Coal campaign. Is trying to work towards getting us off of coal-based fossil fuels. Sarah Edgar is our local Sierra Club representative, and she's absolutely fantastic. So that's the number one is to join an organization. There are other ones, but you can Google that. But number two would be to get your voice known, speak out. This is what require. I think this is like a social issue. It's like apartheid. Like any big social issue requires everyone to kind of understand it, and we learn and we form our opinions based on people around us, what our friends and what our neighbors are talking about the issue. So it's really important that you tell people what you think about climate change. Tell them you think it's a problem, it's real, and it's us. Write letters to the editor, tell your neighbors, tell your boss, tell your coworkers, tell your family, everyone you can. Let them know your views on climate change and that we need to solve this. And third is to take personal action. Lead by example. I bought a Prius, not perfect, but it gets me 50 miles to the gallon, saves me a boatload of money, reduces a heck of a lot of carbon emissions. I cut back on my eating red meat. I'm cutting back on travel. I do a lot more teleconferencing at work instead of flying places. So whatever you can from a personal standpoint, I insulated my home, all those kind of things that save you money will help also reduce carbon emissions. So if you go to EPA.gov, they have a long laundry list there of things that you can choose from to reduce your own carbon emissions. Those are your big three.
So far, we've learned that climate change is real, and so is global warming, right? Mm-hmm. And we also learned we've been bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray.
Yep.
So, I guess, what is Congress doing about this?
Well, it might look very dismal right now, the current state of do nothing Congress, but there are some promising things ahead of us. The Citizens Climate Lobby, the carbon tax that we are promoting is a broadly accepted, even conservatives. George W. Bush has signed up for the carbon tax. George Laffer, the big conservative, the Laffer curve guy, is supporting the carbon tax. It's a right thing to do from a conservative standpoint, is to tax things that are bad. And it's not an increase in tax because you lower, there's a rebate of the taxes, so it doesn't increase total taxes, but it does tax things that are bad, so it creates a market-based incentive to get off of fossil fuels. So there are some very promising things ahead of us.
So many people are out here like they don't believe it. I mean, they just really don't believe it. Especially after this winter we just experienced.
Yep.
So what's your answer to it's winter, therefore there's no global warming?
You hear that one often, particularly when it's cold out. But there's going to be winter. There's going to be cold days. No matter what, there will always be change. And what we tell people is that it's like the weather's on steroids, right? So in baseball, we've always had home runs, right? And here in St. Louis, it's a particularly good example because when baseball players take steroids, they hit more home runs. If you think of that spike we had in home runs back when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds were hitting 60, 70, 72 home runs a year, and now we're back down to 40, maybe 45. It's the same thing with the weather system's on steroids. We're putting more energy into the atmosphere, and that is creating this extra layer on top of the natural variability. So you get more extremes. You get more, in some cases, you get more extreme cold. Because even though it's cold here in the United States, Australia's had a record hot summer, right? Europe had breaking record high temperatures. While we were cold, Europe was extremely hot. New Zealand set a record for record high temperatures this summer, their summer as well. So even though it might be cold here outside of our windows, it's not elsewhere. And even my brother up in Alaska, they've experienced some really high temperatures in the 40s in Alaska in January, which is unheard of. It should be 40 below, not 40 above. So there's weird stuff going on.
But check this out, Larry. I'm really proud of you, man. You sat back and said during the conversation that you used to watch Fox News and all that stuff and get your information from them, and then you decided to do the research yourself.
I did, yeah.
So I always say that, even when I'm in college right now, and I tell other students, my friends, co-students, or whatever we call them, that we need to do the research ourselves and find out what's going on. So it was hella cool to hear Larry say that,
Well, I'll tell you, it was hard. It's hard because we want to be right, right? We like to find one thing. I've had
those beautiful words in the English language.
Listen, as much as I've learned about climate science during my experience, I've learned just as much about human psychology, probably more about human psychology. And it really is it's denialism on a massive scale. And so we don't want to accept climate change, so we go find sources that tell us we're right. It's false. But you have to look in for yourself. It's really an exercise in critical thinking and in sources, quality sources, right? NASA puts guys on the moon. NASA has machines right now on Mars. They have telescopes in space taking pictures of the beginning of the universe as we know it. And they've demonstrated that they're pretty smart about things like math, like atmospheric physics, like chemistry. That talking head on the radio, the talking head on Fox News, how many guys has he put in the moon? When Rush Limbaugh puts a guy on the moon, I'll start listening to him about atmosphere. Until then, he's a nobody. He's a know-nothing. So you talk to the people who know what the heck they're talking about, and it is unequivocal that humans are changing the climate as we know it. They're getting alarmed. Okay? They're not pants on fire kind of alarm, but if we don't start recognizing the problem here, we're all going to be alarmed, and we need to take action before we get to that point.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any parting words for the Bill and Frantz Show audience?
We need you guys. We need you guys to speak out. We need you to contact your congressman to get to know them, get to know your local politicians. A lot of times local politicians can impact higher up levels. If you go to Climate Reality Project, we'll come to your church, we'll come to your community, we'll give you a presentation and talk to you about climate change and what you can do about it. So give us a call, we'll help you out.
Thank you very much, Larry.
You bet. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, it was good. Hey, well, we're out of here. Bill and Frantz Show.
May your 2014 be better than 2013.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.